6 months had passed since the council meeting. Admiral Roy Campbell sat in his big chair at Earth's main space station high above the planet. The station was huge, with spinning wheels that created fake gravity. Through the thick windows, he could see Earth's blue oceans and white clouds far below. But today, Roy was not looking at the beautiful view. His eyes were fixed on the red warning lights that blinked all over his desk. Bad news was coming in from everywhere. "Sir, we just lost contact with the Freeman colony," said Lieutenant Ben Carter. He was young, maybe 25, with nervous hands that shook when he talked. "That makes 12 systems in the past month." Roy rubbed his tired eyes. He had not slept much lately. The reports kept getting worse every day. "What about the council fleets? Are they holding anywhere?" Ben checked his computer screen. "The Zephyrian 4th Fleet tried to make a stand at Alpha Centauri. They lost 80% of their ships. The survivors are running back to their home worlds. The hegemony had come just like everyone said they would, but they were much worse than anyone expected. Their ships were black as space itself, and they moved like a disease spreading from star to star. Wherever they went, planets went quiet. People disappeared. Sometimes whole worlds stopped sending messages. The worst part was how fast they moved. The big alien ships that looked so strong 6 months ago were being destroyed like toys. The Corvin fleet had tried to fight near their home planet. The battle lasted 6 hours. Now there was no more Corvin fleet. "How many ships do we have ready? To fight?" Roy asked. Ben looked uncomfortable. "The Liberty is our only real warship, sir. Everything else is old cargo ships with guns stuck on them. The new ships won't be ready for another year." Roy nodded slowly. Everyone had laughed at Earth's one little warship. Now it might be the only thing they had left. "Get me Captain Morrison," Roy said. "Tell him to get ready to leave Earth immediately." While Ben made the call, Roy thought about how everything had changed. 6 months ago, the aliens acted like humans were children playing with dangerous toys. Now those same aliens were dying, and their mighty fleets were nothing but scrap metal floating in space. The emergency council meeting happened on the same space station where they had rejected the Liberty. But this time, the big meeting room felt very different. Many of the chairs were empty. Some species had lost so many ships that they could not send anyone. Others were too busy trying to save their own planets. Admiral Crixtall looked terrible. His golden feathers were dull and dirty. His proud head hung low like a sick bird. When he spoke, his voice was quiet and scared. "We have lost 17 systems in 30 days, he said to the remaining council members. "Our combined fleets are being destroyed faster than we can build new ships. The hegemony is not just winning, they are making us disappear." The Corvin. Delegate was gone. His people's homeworld had stopped sending messages 3 days ago. The beautiful crystal being from Altair flickered weakly, like a light that was about to go out. "How is this possible?" asked the delegate from Rigel. "We have fought wars for thousands of years. We know how to build the strongest ships in the galaxy," the robot council speaker answered with its flat metal voice. "Hegemony technology adapts to our weapons. When we use energy beams, they build better shields. When we use missiles, they build better point defense. They learn from every battle and become stronger." The room was quiet for a long time. These aliens who had seemed so powerful and wise now looked like scared children. Senator Claire Adams stood up from the human section. She was an older woman with gray hair and a serious face. She had been Earth's voice in the council for 10 years. "Earth offers the USS Liberty for immediate deployment to the war zone," she said in a clear, strong voice. The aliens looked at each other with confusion. Some of them had forgotten that humans even had a warship. "With respect to our human friends," said the Centauri delegate carefully, "the Liberty might be better used for moving people away from danger. The front lines are very dangerous for ships that are not proven in battle." Claire smiled, but it was not a happy smile. Captain Morrison has volunteered to go to the front and see how the hegemony fights. The Liberty has special abilities that might help us learn their secrets. The truth was that none of the aliens thought the Liberty could really fight. They remembered the small, simple ship from 6 months ago. In their minds, they were sending the humans to die while the real warships got ready for bigger battles. Very well, said Admiral Crickstall. But the Liberty should stay far from the main fighting. Perhaps it can watch from a safe distance and report what it sees. The Alteran delegate's crystal body flashed weakly. The hegemony ships are not like anything we have faced before. They do not follow the normal rules of space combat. Your ship should be very careful. After the meeting, Claire walked with Admiral Roy through the empty halls of the station. Most of the alien workers had gone home to protect their own worlds. "Dow, you really think one ship can make a difference?" Roy asked. Claire stopped walking and looked out a window at the stars. "Roy, what do you know about the Liberty's real capabilities?" Roy frowned. "I know it uses some kind of new technology that Lisa Harper developed. But the details are classified above my level. The aliens think we are sending our little ship to die," Claire said quietly. "They think we are being brave but stupid. They have no idea what the Liberty can actually do." "And what can it do?" Claire turned to face him. "It can change the rules of the game completely. The other species have been fighting wars the same way for thousands of years. Bigger guns, stronger shields, faster ships, but humans learned something different. What did we learn? We learned that the best way to win a fight is to make sure your enemy cannot fight back at all." Meanwhile, on the Liberty, Captain Jake Morrison was getting his ship ready to leave. The crew of 200 humans worked quickly and quietly. They all knew this might be a one-way trip. Commander Lisa Harper was in the engine room, checking the ship's most important systems. These systems were hidden deep inside the ship where no one could see them. The aliens who had laughed at the Liberty's simple design had no idea what was really inside. "How long until we reach the front lines?" Jake asked over the communication system. 3 days at maximum speed," came the answer from the navigation officer. Jake looked around the bridge. His crew was young but well-trained. They all knew they were flying into the biggest space battle in galactic history. But they also knew something the aliens did not. The Liberty was not going to the front lines to die. It was going there to end the war. Captain Jake Morrison stood at the front of his ship's control room. Through the big window, he could see space filled with enemy ships. 3 different alien armies had come together for one reason: to destroy all humans on Earth. The ships out there were huge. Each one was 3 times bigger than Jake's ship, the USS Defiance. The enemy had weapons that could break apart whole planets. Jake had never seen so many warships in one place before. "Captain, Admiral Carter wants to talk to you," said Lisa Barnes. She worked at the communications desk, and her voice sounded worried. Jake pressed a button, and Admiral Carter's face appeared on the main screen. The old man looked tired and scared. Lines covered his face like he had not slept for days. "Jake, the government has said yes to Project Prometheus. You are our only hope now," Carter said. Jake felt his stomach drop. Project Prometheus was something that might save Earth or might kill everyone trying. 3 years ago, a smart woman named Dr. Elena Rodriguez had an idea. She thought humans could use their creativity as a weapon. Other alien races had lost their ability to think in new ways, but humans still had it. "Sir, are we really going to try this?" asked Commander Alex Turner. He was Jake's second in command and stood next to the captain's chair. "The computer tests showed we might all die doing this." Jake looked at the enemy ships on his screen. The Zephyrian Empire had brought 1,000 ships. Their ships looked like they were made of crystal and glowed with deadly energy shields. No one had ever broken through those shields before. The Kralix hegemony ships looked like giant living things. They were part machine and part animal. Their weapons could melt anything they touched. Jake had heard stories about whole cities turning into soup when Kralix ships attacked them. The Vorthan collective ships were the strangest. They had perfect geometric shapes that hurt to look at. Their weapons could bend space itself. They could make a piece of space fold in half and crush anything inside. "Mr. Turner, get the ship ready for quantum fold activation," Jake ordered. He tried to keep his voice steady, even though his hands were shaking. "Dr. Rodriguez, is your machine ready?" Dr. Rodriguez looked up from her workstation. Her hands moved fast over controls that seemed to change shape as she touched them. The machine she had built was called the Chaos Engine. It was supposed to let the ship change itself in ways that were impossible. "The Chaos Engine is ready, Captain," she said. "But I need to tell you something important. Once we turn it on, no one knows what will happen. We are teaching the ship to make up new rules as it goes along." Everyone on the control room looked nervous. What they were about to try had never been done before. They wanted to make a ship that could change its own body in real time. It would adapt to threats faster than any alien computer could think. "The enemy is calling us," Barnes said. The screen changed to show an alien with 6 glowing eyes. This was War Prime Zelthak of the Zephyrian Empire. He was the commander of their whole army. His face showed nothing but hate for humans. "Human ship, you will give up now," Zelthak said. His voice sounded like metal scraping against metal. "Your kind's time of dying has come." Jake smiled, but it was not a happy smile. "War Prime, you are about to learn something about humans. We are the only ones in the galaxy who still tell stories about monsters." "What are you talking about, human?" Zelthak asked. "We tell stories about monsters because we know how to become them when we need to," Jake said. Dr. Rodriguez finished her preparations. The Chaos Engine was a collection of quantum computers that no alien race understood. It worked by breaking the rules of physics on purpose. While alien computers tried to predict what would happen next, the Chaos Engine would make sure that the wrong thing happened instead. The idea was simple but dangerous. Most aliens had evolved to be logical and predictable. They made the best choice every time. But humans were different. Sometimes humans made terrible choices just to see what would happen. Sometimes they did things that made no sense at all, and sometimes that was exactly what they needed to win. "Captain, incoming message from all 3 enemy fleets," Barnes said. The screen split into 3 parts. On one side was War Prime Zelthak. On another was Admiral Crix of the Kralix, who looked like a giant bug wearing armor made of bones. The third showed Hierophant 977 of the Vorthan Collective, which looked like a floating metal head with too many angles. "Humans," Admiral Crix said, his voice wet and disgusting. "Your fighting spirit will be remembered. We will keep some of you alive to study in our labs." Hierophant 977 spoke in a voice that sounded like a computer. "Your chaotic nature creates disorder in the universe. We will fix this problem by removing you from existence." War Prime Zelthak leaned forward. "Your species has caused enough trouble. Today we bring order to this part of space." Jake looked around his control room. Lieutenant Kevin Brooks worked at navigation. Ensign Maria Santos handled weapons. Commander Patricia Lee ran the science station. They were all good people who had volunteered for what everyone knew was a suicide mission. These men and women had families back on Earth. They had dreams and hopes for the future. But they were here anyway, ready to die if it meant their planet might survive. "Dr. Rodriguez, activate the Chaos Engine," Jake said. "Yes, sir," she replied. Her finger moved toward the activation button. "Wait," Turner said. "Captain, once we do this, we can never go back. The ship will never be the same." Jake thought about Earth behind them. 3 billion people lived there. Children playing in parks, old people sitting on porches, families eating dinner together, all of them depending on this one ship to save them. "The aliens think they know everything about fighting," Jake said. "They think the universe follows rules that can't be broken. Today, we show them what happens when humans decide to rewrite those rules." Dr. Rodriguez pressed the button. The USS Defiance began to change in ways that should not have been possible. The walls started flowing like water. The floor became transparent, then solid again. Energy moved through the ship in patterns that made no sense but somehow worked perfectly. "All hands, prepare for combat," Jake announced over the ship's communication system. "Today we fight not just for Earth, but for the right of every thinking being in the universe to be unpredictable." Outside, the three alien fleets began moving toward them. Thousands of ships carrying weapons that could destroy worlds. But inside the USS Defiance, something impossible was being born. A ship that refused to follow the laws of physics. A vessel powered by human stubbornness and creativity. Tabai. Battle for Earth was about to begin. The bridge lights went dim as power flowed away from normal systems. Commander Lisa Harper's fingers danced across her control panel like she was playing a piano. Red warning lights blinked all around her engineering station, but her face stayed calm. "Aurora Protocol is active," she announced. "All systems are green and ready." What happened next was something that no one in the galaxy had ever seen before. The Liberty's simple white hull began to change. Panels that looked like normal armor started to slide apart. Hidden sections opened up like metal flowers blooming in space. The hegemony commander on the screen stopped talking. For the first time, its glowing blue eyes showed something that might have been confusion. "What is that vessel doing?" it asked, its mechanical voice carrying a strange note. The answer came as more sections of the Liberty opened. What the aliens and machines had thought was a basic cargo ship with some guns was revealing its true nature. Hidden inside the simple-looking hull was the most advanced piece of human technology ever built. Commander Pete Williams stared at his instruments as numbers climbed higher and higher. "Sir, the quantum field generators are coming online. Energy readings are going crazy. I have never seen anything like this." The Liberty was no longer just a ship. It was becoming something else entirely. The opened hull sections revealed arrays of crystal structures that glowed with inner light. These were not weapons in any normal sense. They were tools for changing the basic rules of how space and time worked. "Impossible," transmitted one of the hegemony ship commanders. "No known technology can generate these energy patterns." But the machines were wrong. Human scientists had been working on quantum field manipulation for over a century. While other species built bigger guns and stronger shields, humans had been learning to rewrite the laws of physics themselves. The hegemony fleet responded to this unknown threat the only way they knew how. Every ship opened fire at the same time. The space around the Liberty filled with deadly energy. Particle beams, plasma bolts, and antimatter missiles converged on the small human ship from hundreds of directions. Amy Foster watched her screens as the massive attack approached. "Sir, incoming fire from all enemy vessels. Impact in 10 seconds. But Jake Morrison was not worried. "Lisa, are we ready?" "Quantum displacement field is at full power," Lisa replied from engineering. "We are no longer completely in normal space-time." The enemy weapons struck where the Liberty should have been, but the ship had shifted into a state between dimensions. The attacks passed through empty space while the Liberty existed in a place where normal weapons could not reach. The hegemony machines had never seen anything like this. Their tactical computers tried to understand what had happened to their target. Some ships kept firing at the empty space where the Liberty used to be. Others stopped shooting and waited for new orders. "How is this possible?" the lead hegemony commander asked. "Your vessel has disappeared from our sensors, but we can still see it," Jake smiled. "That is because you are looking at something your technology cannot understand. We are not hiding from you. We are existing in a different set of physical laws." Inside the Liberty, the crew worked at their stations with practiced efficiency. They had trained for this moment hundreds of times in simulators. But the real thing was more intense than any practice session. Lisa called from engineering. "The quantum cascade projector is charged and ready. All enemy vessels are within the effect zone." Pete checked his tactical display one more time. "Sir, we have perfect positioning. Every hegemony ship in the system is locked in our targeting computer. The quantum cascade projector was humanity's greatest secret. It was not a weapon that destroyed things by hitting them with energy or explosions. Instead, it changed the basic rules of reality in a limited area of space. Inside the cascade field, the laws of physics would become different. "What will happen to their ships?" Amy asked. Lisa explained while she prepared the final firing sequence. "Their technology depends on quantum effects to work. Computer processors, energy systems, artificial intelligence cores, even basic electronics all rely on predictable quantum interactions. When we change those rules, nothing will work the way it is supposed to." The hegemony fleet was still trying to hit the Liberty with conventional weapons. Some ships were moving closer, hoping to ram the human vessel. Others were spreading out, trying to find an angle where their guns might work, but they were fighting an enemy that existed outside their understanding of war. The Liberty was not just avoiding their attacks, it was preparing to make their attacks impossible. "Sir, more hegemony ships are arriving," Pete reported. "Looks like reinforcements from the outer system." Jake nodded. "Good, let them all come. We want as many as possible inside the effect zone." The new arrivals were even bigger than the first wave. Massive command ships that looked like metal cities floating in space. They brought the total enemy count to over 500 vessels. Any normal fleet would have been completely overwhelmed. But the Liberty was not a normal ship, and this was not a normal battle. "Final systems check," Jake announced to his crew. "Navigation locked," called the pilot. "Weapons systems ready," said Pete. "Engineering shows all green," reported Lisa. "Communications are clear," added Amy. Jake looked at the screen showing hundreds of enemy ships surrounding them. Each one was bigger and more heavily armed than the Liberty. But size and firepower would not matter in the next few minutes. The hegemony commander made one last attempt at communication. "Unknown vessel. Your defensive technology is impressive, but you cannot hide forever. Surrender now, and your deaths will be quick." Jake stepped forward so the enemy could see his face clearly. "We are not hiding. We are about to show you something that will change how everyone thinks about war." He paused for a moment, thinking about all the species that had laughed at humanity's simple warship. The proud aliens who thought humans were too young and stupid to build real military technology. The machines who believed that bigger and stronger always won. They were all about to learn that humans had been preparing for this fight in ways none of them could imagine. "Lisa," Jake said in a voice that carried to every corner of the ship, "fire the quantum cascade projector." The universe was about to change, and only the humans knew what was coming next. High Hunter Zarthek stood on the bridge of his massive flagship as it led the entire Vorthak Armada toward the Sol system. Behind him stretched a fleet of over 300 warships, the largest hunting force ever assembled in Vorthak history. Today, they would end the human resistance by destroying their homeworld. "All ships report ready for battle," announced his second-in-command. "The human defense fleets are moving to intercept us." Zarthek watched the tactical displays with satisfaction. The humans had assembled every warship they could find, but they were still outnumbered 3-1. This would be the final hunt, the moment when humanity learned what happened to species that dared to resist the Vorthak Empire. "Begin the attack," he ordered. Admiral Ben Wright coordinated the human defense from his command ship Guardian. Around him, officers worked frantically to manage the largest space battle in human history. Ships from every colony and station had come to defend Earth, but they all knew the odds were against them. "Enemy fleet is entering weapons range," reported his tactical officer. "They are maintaining formation and advancing steadily." "All ships, engage at will," Wright commanded. "Make every shot count." The battle erupted across the solar system. Human ships darted between the larger Vorthak vessels, using their speed and maneuverability to avoid the worst of the alien firepower. But the Vorthak had learned from their earlier encounters. They had adapted their tactics to counter human mobility. Captain Tony Blake led a squadron of destroyers in a desperate attack on the Vorthak right flank. His ships fired everything they had at the alien cruisers, but the enemy shields absorbed most of the damage. Return fire from the Vorthak tore through his formation, destroying 2 ships instantly. All units fall back to the second defensive line, Wright ordered as he watched his forces being pushed back toward Earth. But the real battle was not happening in space. On a hidden asteroid station in the outer solar system, Dr. Lisa Chen worked frantically to complete her most important project. Using the information stolen from the Vorthak research facility, she had built a device that could broadcast the genetic liberation signal across the entire galaxy. "How much longer do you need?" asked her assistant, Dr. Alan Hayes, as explosions from the distant battle lit up the asteroid field. "Almost ready," Lisa replied, making final adjustments to the transmission array. "The signal has to be perfect. If we get the frequency wrong, it will not work." The device she had built was based on architect technology found in the captured files. It would broadcast an electromagnetic pulse designed to disrupt the genetic locks that controlled Vorthak behavior. If it worked, every Vorthak in the galaxy would be freed from their programming. Meanwhile, Sub-Hunter Ketharn fought aboard his ship as the human battle fleets attacked. He had grown up believing that hunting was the purpose of existence, that killing prey was the highest honor a Vorthak could achieve. But watching the humans fight with such determination made him question everything he had been taught. These humans did not act like prey. They sacrificed themselves to save others. They fought not for glory or hunting trophies, but to protect their families and homes. Some of them even tried to rescue fallen enemies instead of letting them die. "Why do they fight so hard?" Ketharn wondered aloud. His pack leader, Vorthek, overheard the question and snarled in anger. "They fight because they do not understand they are prey. We will teach them." But Ketharn could not shake the feeling that his people were the ones who did not understand something important. The battle raged for hours. Human losses mounted as the Vorthak fleet pushed closer to Earth. Cities on the planet prepared for the worst as alien ships broke through the outer defenses. It looked like humanity's final hour had arrived. Then Dr. Chen activated her device. The signal burst out from the hidden asteroid station at the speed of light. It was invisible and silent, but it carried within it the key to unlock 10,000 years of genetic slavery. The electromagnetic pulse spread through the solar system in seconds, reaching every Vorthak ship in the battle fleet. On the Vorthak flagship, Zarthek was preparing to give the order for planetary bombardment when the signal hit him. For a moment, he felt nothing. Then, like a dam bursting in his mind, a flood of suppressed thoughts and feelings crashed through his consciousness. He remembered things he had never been allowed to think about before. Questions about why his people only lived to hunt and kill. Doubts about whether destroying entire species was really necessary. Feelings of guilt for the billions of lives he had taken over his long career. The genetic locks that had controlled his behavior for his entire life suddenly disappeared. For the first time since his creation, Zarthek was truly free to choose his own path. Across the fleet, the same transformation was happening to every Vorthak warrior. Centuries of suppressed emotions and thoughts came flooding back. Many of them collapsed as the weight of their actions hit them like a physical blow. Ketharn felt the change wash over him and understood immediately what had happened. The humans had found a way to free his people from their programming. Instead of destroying their enemies, they had chosen to liberate them. On his ship's communication system, he heard other Vorthak calling out in confusion and horror as they realized what they had become. Some demanded to know who had done this to them. Others simply wept for the first time in their lives. The battle stopped as if someone had thrown a switch. Vorthak ships ceased firing and began drifting in space as their crews struggled to understand their new freedom. Human commanders watched in amazement as their enemies simply gave up the fight. Admiral Wright received a communication from the Vorthak flagship. It was Zarthek, but his voice was different now. Gone was the cold arrogance of the apex predator. In its place was something that sounded almost human. "Human Commander," Zarthek said slowly. "We need to talk. The negotiations took place on a neutral space station between Earth and Mars. Zarthek came with a small group of his followers, including Ketharn, who had volunteered to help build bridges between the species. We understand now what we were," Zarthek told the human delegation. "We were weapons, not people. We were programmed to hunt and kill because that was our purpose. But you have given us the chance to choose our own purpose." Dr. Chen, who had been invited to the talks, listened as the former High Hunter spoke about his people's tragic history. "What will you do now?" she asked. "We will try to make amends," Zarthek replied. "We cannot bring back the species we destroyed, but we can help rebuild what remains. Some of my people will not accept this change. They will try to return to the old ways, but others, like Ketharn here, want to build something better." The talks continued for days. In the end, humanity and the reformed Vorthak signed a treaty that established a new galactic alliance. The Vorthak would use their knowledge and technology to help restore the civilizations they had damaged. In return, humans would help them learn how to live as free beings rather than programmed weapons. Not all Vorthak accepted the change. Some fled to the far edges of the galaxy, where they continued to hunt in the old ways. Others, unable to cope with their newfound emotions and memories, chose to end their lives rather than face the guilt of their past actions. But many, led by individuals like Ketharn, embraced their freedom and worked to build a better future. They established colonies dedicated to peaceful research and began the long process of learning how to create rather than destroy. Zarthek made one final choice as leader of his people. Unable to live with the weight of 3,000 years of genocide, he piloted his flagship directly into Earth's moon. The massive explosion created a crater visible from the planet's surface, a permanent reminder of both the cost of war and the possibility of redemption. Dr. Chen often looked up at that crater in the years that followed. It reminded her that the greatest victory was not the defeat of their enemies, but the liberation of beings who had been enslaved by their own nature. Humanity had proven that even the most fearsome predators could be shown a path to freedom. The galaxy was no longer ruled by fear, it was ruled by choice. Captain Yoxri stared at the human ship on his view screen and made a decision that would change his life forever. His pride as a hegemony officer demanded that he fight. His survival instincts told him to run. After watching what happened to Admiral Vextar's flagship, his survival instincts were winning. "Weapons officer," he said quietly. "Power down all weapon systems." "Sir?" The weapons officer looked confused. "Are we surrendering?" "No," Captain Yoxri replied. "We are learning. There is a difference." On the third ship, Commander Nix Ara was coming to the same conclusion. He had seen enough battles to know when he was beaten. The smart thing to do was accept defeat gracefully and live to fight another day. "All ships. This is Commander Nixara," he broadcast to the remaining hegemony vessels. "I am ordering a full stand down. Power down all weapons and prepare to withdraw from this sector." But not everyone was ready to accept defeat. From the disabled flagship, Admiral Vexitar's voice crackled over the emergency communication system. "Negative. I am still in command of this fleet. We do not retreat from a single enemy ship, no matter how advanced their technology." Captain Morrison listened to the argument between the alien commanders with growing concern. He had hoped that his demonstration would convince them to leave peacefully. Instead, it seemed like the hegemony leaders were arguing among themselves about whether to continue fighting. "Nemesis," he said quietly, "what are the aliens doing?" "Captain, I am monitoring their communications," the AI replied. "Admiral Vextar is ordering the remaining ships to attack us. The other two commanders are refusing his orders. There appears to be a disagreement about command authority. Morrison frowned. A military force arguing with itself was dangerous for everyone involved. Desperate people made poor decisions, and poor decisions led to unnecessary deaths. "Open a channel to all 3 ships," Morrison ordered. "Channel open, Captain." "Attention, Hegemony Fleet. This is Captain Morrison. I can hear your discussion, and I want to offer you a solution that allows everyone to go home safely today." Admiral Vextar's angry voice cut across the communication. "We do not need solutions from humans. We need vengeance for the humiliation you have caused us." "Admiral," Morrison replied patiently, "vengeance is expensive. It costs ships, crews, and lives. Are you willing to pay that price for your pride? The hegemony does not show weakness to inferior species," Admiral Vextar declared. Captain Morrison sighed. He had really hoped to avoid what was about to happen next. "Admiral, you are making a serious mistake. You are confusing strength with stupidity. A strong leader knows when to fight and when to negotiate. A stupid leader fights battles that cannot be won." "Enough talk," Admiral Vextar shouted. "Captain Yoxri, Commander Nixara, I order you to attack the human ship immediately. Use ramming speed if necessary. Destroy that vessel at any cost." There was a long pause before Captain Yoxri responded. "Admiral, with respect, I cannot follow that order. My ship and crew are not going to commit suicide for your pride," Commander Nixara agreed. "Admiral Vextar, you are asking us to throw away our lives for nothing. The human ship has shown us mercy so far. If we attack them again, they might not be so generous." Admiral Vextar's voice became cold and threatening. "Are you refusing a direct order from your superior officer?" "Yes, sir," both captains replied at the same time. Morrison realized that the situation was getting out of control. The alien fleet was falling apart, and desperate enemies were the most dangerous kind. "Nemesis," he said quietly, "I think it's time to end this conversation permanently. Can you restore power to Admiral Vextar's ship?" "Yes, Captain. However, I recommend keeping their weapons systems disabled. Admiral Vextar appears to be emotionally unstable and might attempt a suicide attack." "Agreed. Restore their engines and life support, but keep their weapons offline. And Nemesis?" "Yes, Captain?" "Make sure they understand that we could have destroyed them at any time, but chose not to." "Understood, Captain. Initiating power restoration with selective systems activation." On the Hegemony flagship, lights began flickering back to life. The main engines hummed back to power and full life support was restored. But when Admiral Vextar tried to activate his weapons, nothing happened. "Engineering," he called down to his repair teams. "Why are the weapons still offline?" The chief engineer's voice came back immediately. "Admiral, the weapons are not broken. They have been deliberately disconnected at the quantum level. The human ship is controlling what systems we can and cannot use." Admiral Vextar felt his anger being replaced by something much worse: fear. The humans were not just more advanced than the hegemony. They were so far ahead that they could control hegemony ships from a distance. Captain Morrison's voice filled the bridges of all 3. "Alien ships, Admiral Vextar, your ship is now fully operational except for weapons. You can leave this sector immediately, or you can stay here and continue this discussion. The choice is yours." Admiral Vextar looked around his bridge at his crew. They were all staring at him, waiting for his decision. For the first time in his military career, he was completely out of options. "Captain Morrison," he said slowly, "what are your terms?" "No terms, Admiral. No surrender required. You came here to test humanity's defenses, and now you have your answer. Take that information back to your leaders and let them decide how the hegemony wants to proceed." Morrison paused to let his words sink in. "But Admiral, I want you to deliver a message for me. Tell your leaders that humanity did not come to the stars to conquer anyone. We came to explore, to learn, and to find our place among the civilized worlds." But we also came prepared to defend ourselves. What about our ships? Captain Yoxry asked. Will you allow us to return home? Of course, Morrison replied. Your flagship will need repairs, but it can make the journey. Your other two ships are fully functional. You are free to leave whenever you choose. Commander Nixara spoke up. Captain Morrison, I must ask, how many ships like the Liberty does humanity really have? Morrison smiled. Commander, that question has been asked several times today. The answer is still classified. But I will tell you this. The Liberty is just one ship in the human fleet. There are others. Some are smaller, some are larger. All of them are designed to protect human interests in space. This was still mostly a lie, but it was a necessary one. Admiral Vextar, Morrison continued, when you report this encounter, to your superiors, please include this message. Humanity prefers peace to war, but we are prepared for both. Future meetings between our species should be conducted through proper diplomatic channels, not military ones. Admiral Vextar nodded slowly. Your message will be delivered, Captain Morrison. Then this conversation is over, Morrison declared. Have a safe journey home, gentlemen. One by one, the three hegemony ships began moving away from the Liberty. The flagship moved slowly, still damaged, but functional. The other two ships escorted it carefully, making sure it could complete the journey home. As the alien fleet disappeared into hyperspace, Lieutenant Danny Rodriguez turned to his captain. Sir, do you think they'll be back? Morrison settled into his command chair and watched the stars. Not anytime soon, Danny. Word will spread about what happened here today. Other species will think twice before testing us. And if they do come back? Danny asked. Morrison smiled. By then, the Liberty won't be alone out here. From the ship's speakers, Nemesis added quietly, I look forward to meeting my sister ships, Captain. And in the depths of space, the Liberty continued her patrol, guardian of a species that had just announced to the galaxy that humanity was here to stay.